Now the reason this is a back-to-back video, one after the other this week, is because on Fridays, the new episode of the series comes out. This is not going to be a part 2 of the Let's Be Nice challenge. This is going to just be my thoughts on this episode. There are a lot of things that happened, and there are a lot of things that I want to muse over. We're going to be both nice and angry, because I was both angry, fascinated, and everything all at the same time. And I was actually very entertained in a very specific spot, because we'll get to it. I made notes for the first time for this episode, so we're just going to list them out. I didn't write them on these, though. No, I wrote them on a WordPad document or whatever. So, our first little note. This isn't in order for what the events happened in the episode. No, it's just my list of things I want to talk about. The first one here says, during the third butchery. And the following line is, during the third prejudice against the elves, could this possibly be in relation to King Thingol's murder and the elf-dwarf hatreds? Okay, so we're going to talk about that next, then. King Thingol was the Elven king of Doriath in Beleriand. During the First Age, he ruled Beleriand, and his people ended up grabbing one of Feanor's Silmarils that Melkor had stolen. They had taken the Silmaril from Melkor, and they were going to put it in Thingol's crown to, like, protect Beleriand and with its magic and all that stuff. And they commissioned the dwarves to build this crown, and their relations have never been they're closer since this point. So they built the crown, and then they realized that the crown was so good, the silver was so awesome, so the dwarves are like, we want this crown. And then Thingol's like, no, give me the crown. And so they were going, and then the dwarves killed King Thingol, and they ran off. Right? And the Sindar elves of Doriath were so pissed off about this, and Thingol's wife, the Maiar lady, she left as well. A lot of people left, and things fell apart very fast after Thingol's death. And the dwarves were at the center of that, because they killed King Thingol. And that is that origin point for why elves and dwarves have such a strong hatred for one another. And to me, I would think that it would be the Sindar/Sylvan elves who have that type of prejudice against the dwarves, for they were the ones in Beleriand, or Eriador, the Beleriand/Eriador region, when the dwarves performed this act. So this drove a wedge between those two peoples. But the Noldor were in Valinor. They were hanging out in Valinor, they were hanging out with Fëanor, they were hanging out with Fingolfin. The Noldor, I would expect not to have that prejudice against the dwarves, because Doriath was not their realm, Doriath was not their region or whatever. So I'm thinking, since Elrond is both part Sindar, part Noldor, that Durin, his fathers, his forefathers, and all that stuff, they remember the King Thingol slaying, and the centuries and centuries of prejudice, of anger and grr between the two peoples. Elrond seems to be getting past this, even though I would argue that you should have probably made Elrond the one with the prejudice, right? But the friendship with Durin the Fourth feels like a really nice thing, but they wanted to put that in probably to remind you of Legolas and Gimli, and how the two people of two distinct races could become friends. But so Durin the Third is like towards Durin the Fourth's idea to save the elves. Elrond is like begging, hey, can you guys help us out? We need the mithril, or else we're all going to die. And Durin the Third is like, Gad! And all that stuff. So he kicks Elrond out of Moria. And Durin the Fourth apparently is no longer the next in line, because he's defied his father. He's no longer technically a prince and all that stuff. And then we see the corrupted leaf that Elrond brought with him, that we saw Gilgalad pick up. in the previous episodes, and that turned black because of some sort of weird corruption or whatever from darkness or whatever. Who knows what the fuck is going on there? But so the black leaf was in Moria now, and the mithril shard that Durin gave to Elrond is on the table next to the leaf, and we see that the mithril healed the leaf. The black stuff goes away. So we learn that the whole Gilgalad story with Untitled and all that stuff ends up being actually true. It's not just a story he was told, that's actually the truth, because the mithril has some sort of healing element to darkness and corruption because of the Silmaril and all that over. So that's what they're going to do with that. So that's probably that the whole elves are going to die out thing is probably going to be true, unfortunately. And Durin and Elrond decide they're going to mind it themselves, alone, without the other dwarves' helps. And then we look, and Durin the Third is like, don't dig too far down. He says, don't dig too far down. It's dangerous to dig too far down, even though the dwarves are the ones who dug too far down because they're of their own hubris and wanting to build the greatest kingdom of the dwarves ever, to make the mightiest of the realms. Because they wanted to delve too. They wanted to do that. Durin the Third would have wanted to do that, but in this show, he doesn't. He's a wiser person. You know, I said that Durin the Third was the best character in the show so far, probably because he was the least shown. Well, now, in this episode, he's been butchered as well. So, now, they don't want you to dig too deep. He says, don't dig too deep because there's something, he's worried about something. And then we pan the camera down, and we see that the Balrog is down there. And he's not sleeping, he's awake. Even though he's supposed to be dormant in like some sort of hibernation. He fled from the War of Wrath, and he's sleeping down there. We don't know if that's the same Balrog from the Runes of Ithilien story. We don't know who the elf was, whatever. I'm not going to spend too much time wondering who that elf is, because they're probably going to talk about it in the future seasons. They're starting to show us that roadmap of what they're going to do in the future seasons. They're starting to show us this. I'm starting to figure out what they're trying to do here, and I could either appreciate it or not appreciate it. They seem to be... They're definitely butchering all the lore. They're not even paying attention to the maps the same way. And it's just, it's painful. It's painful to watch. Now we're moving over to Numenor, in the aftermath of the explosion of Episode 6, because of the MacGuffin sword key that blew up because of the tunnels and Mount Doom, the location with Mordor and all that stuff. I showed you that map, and we're going to bring that out again. I think I kept that paper somewhere. Let's see if we can find it. The little doodle that I made. Let's see. Where's the doodle? Where is the doodle? There's a lot of papers here. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of these. There we go. There we go. There it is. So on this doodle here, you could see with this terrible drawings that Mount Doom is located right here, right there. Mount Doom is right there, and there is Udun, right? This is the top right. There are mountain ranges going down, there's a little valley here, and mountain ranges going down here. Now, the area here is desert. They said it was desert because of Mount Doom's frequent eruptions during the First Age. But this is all Tolkien's lore. This may not be the Rings of Power's lore, because clearly they have their own ideas, and I'm trying to figure out where this village is. Where is this village? Alright, so I learned that the Sea of Nernin is a saltwater sea. It's fed by rivers from the Bay of Belfast. This one here goes through the mountains here and out to the ocean right there. So it's fed by that, right? And so that's salt water. So where are they getting their fresh water? So maybe they have a freshwater reservoir in their little village located in some part of Mordor that I'm trying to figure out where it might be. I've looked up the name. We finally have the name. It's called Tir Harad. Alright, we're going to call it, it's T-I-R Harad. It's like if we know what the name of the little village is, Tir Harad. Harad is the name of the south. The land south of Middle Earth, you know. It's in Middle Earth, but it's south of Gondor. You know, Let's try to do whatever. Right. Okay. So if this is the Gondor region, where this would be Gondor, and this is Mordor. Oh, right. So it's probably be about like that, actually. Alright, so that's Mordor, this little area right there. And then that's like the Gondor region. This is like Lindon. This would be where Arnor eventually is. So we go down here. This is here, the Rovania. That would be the Misty Mountains right there. This would be Rovanian era. This is Mordor. Right. So all of this is Harad. Right. It's a name for south. You know, there's Far Harad, far south. There's Harad, south. South Gondor, which is during Gondor's expansionist era, they picked up a place called South Gondor, which is a part of the Harad area, right? And there's Haradrim there, Southlanders. Now, I get where they're coming from when they say Southlands, but they call it the Southlands. It's Harad. I would have appreciated it more if they just called it Harad, you know, the Haradrim. We are the Haradrim people. We're the people of Harad, you know. It would have at least given it some appreciation for terminology instead of just calling it the Southlands. You know, and it's like, let's look here at the Mordor map again here. This is Gurgras. This little top right, top left corner here, that's to my top right, is to bottom. It's my bottom right, it's your top left. This is the plains of Gurgras. Gurgras is just one big vast desert because of all the crap that comes out of this mountain during the First Age. You know, now, theoretically, this mountain would have gone silent after Melkor went bye-bye. And Melkor was bye-bye for a long time. Mordor was in... Sauron was in Mordor for a long time, but the first recorded eruption of Mount Doom was pretty far into the Second Age, about 2,000 years into the Second Age, if I remember correctly. Now, Sauron did build the One Ring and his forges and all that stuff using the fires of this place for sorceries and stuff because of the power located in Mount Doom. So when it was erupting during the Third Age, it was through magic. Constant smog was coming out to cover the skies and all that stuff, so all the orcs that could not roam in sunlight could invade Gondor and besiege Minas Tirith, you know. That's what that is through sorceries and all that stuff. Okay, so it's not just through water, it's through sorcery means, and so the Rings of Power, it blows up. We don't know where the village is, okay? But we're going to talk about the south area. This is called Nirn. The south area is called N-U-R-N. Nirn. N-U-R-N. Nirn is more fertile, even though it's kind of dry, but it's fertile because of the ocean, the sea of Nernin here, and the rivers here, and here. This is more fertile in the south, you know, and there's a lot of ash that comes down from Mount Doom. The winds carry fertile stuff that helps things grow down here. But all of the dangerous fumes and crap stay in the plains of Gurgras. And nothing lives down to the very air you breathe is a poisonous fume. And that's just, he's talking about the plains of Gurgras, Boromir, when he says that in Fellowship. He's not talking about Nirn. Nirn is where the slaves of Sauron hung out. Sauron had a bunch of human slaves tilling the fields. This is agriculture land. How do you think he feeds his armies? The men eat food, you know, the armies need food. Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys. You know, they need food. Where do you think they keep it? Here. they keep the food here. So this has to be green. So I get that. If the villages from the show were in Nirn, I would not be questioning it, because it would probably look like that in the show, and they'd probably be located further down to the south near the mountains. That's why we see a bunch of mountains, you know. And there's probably the opening from this little river here. The Númenórean ships probably took the river up to here and entered Mordor through the river right into Nirn. That could make sense. It could make sense for it to all be right here, but the problem is Mount Doom is right here. Mount Doom is way up here. Now, as I noticed with as I told you in the previous episode with these lines, these represent roughly 90 miles. Roughly 90 miles. This little path of distance. So if you could think like maybe that could be from here to here. So 180 miles, 150 miles. Nern would now a lot of other people have been calling it the pyroclastic flow, and that's what that is. But this is a fantasy realm, you know. We've seen a bunch of shows where a pyroclastic flow didn't immediately kill people, like Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, for example. You know, it might have enveloped everybody, but nobody just immediately died. But these, you know, a movie's got a movie, a movie's got a movie. But you'd think that they would at least keep it a little bit logical, a little bit logical. I'm learning a little bit. I've learned a little bit about pyroclastic flows just for the purpose of talking about it. Now, the average radius of a pyroclastic flow is within 5 to 15 kilometers, which is roughly 5 to 10 miles. About 10 miles, roughly. The largest would probably be about 100 kilometers, which is roughly about 60 miles. Now, I would say the pyroclastic flow could head out and cover this entire plains of Gurgras, you know? The pyroclastic flow might envelop the entire plains of Gurgras. That would make sense. But I don't think the pyroclastic flow would go over these mountains and into Nern. I don't think it would. It wouldn't make sense for it to do that. So theoretically, this village of Tir Harad would have to be within the plains of Gurgras somewhere, but the plains of Gurgras is a desert. So why, how, where? The village, the rivers, where's the water sources? Okay, I'm trying to figure it out. Now, Cirith Ungol, Cirith Ungol is located somewhere around here. There's a pass, Cirith Ungol, with the lands of Gondor out here and all that crap. Now, I'm thinking maybe Cirith Ungol. Alright, we're going to cheat a little bit and show you the map here. And try just for a few seconds to angle it properly because the light's not going to work very well. But, let me try to do it like this. Come on, dude. Come on. Alright, no, right there, right there. So there's a little pass here, right here. There's Mount Doom right there. Now there's a little pass here called Cirith Ungol. That might be in this little area right there. There's a little dot right there, right? Alright. So that would be right here where this little circle. I'm just going to circle it right there. That could be Cirith Ungol. There's a little opening with the mountains here. That's in the Third Age, though. But we don't know the Second Age. Cirith Ungol's not there in the Second Age, clearly. But maybe something else is there. Maybe something else is here. It could be a village, their village of Tir Harad or whatever, the little settlements of the Southlanders, the Haradrim, they don't look like Haradrim, clearly, you know. It's like they had the opportunity to get diverse with the Haradrim. They had the opportunity. It was there. They had the opportunity and they didn't take it. They wanted to make their own characters, their own decisions. Clearly, they wanted to make it their own decisions, clearly. But the opportunity was there. The opportunity was there, and they didn't take it. So I'm trying to figure out where these villages would be. If they were down here in Nern, it would make perfect sense. But clearly, the show doesn't make sense. It would have to be here. It would have to be up here, the little villages. They would have to be here somewhere near the mountains to the bottom. Here, near these bottom mountains, and near these mountains over here, the Mountains of Shadow. So it would have to be somewhere in that circle where the Elven ruin, the Elven Tower or whatever it is. And within this circle would have to be where that village is, the Tir Harad village is. It would have to be somewhere within that circle, but on this side, in the plains of Gurgras area. Even though it doesn't make sense for the plains of Gurgras to be green. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. Even for the Second Age, it doesn't make sense. It erupted way too many times for the First Age. It doesn't make sense. But maybe they're hinting that 1,000 years had passed since the War of Wrath in this. They're hinting that maybe this is 1,000 years into the Second Age. Though the timeline is compressed, Elendil and Isildur are around. It does make sense. Ignore that for a moment. If it's 1,000 Second Age, 1,000 years have passed since the last eruption of Mount Doom. So clearly things would have settled down. Over 1,000 years, could the plains of Gurgras get a little green? Yeah, I guess. But they called it a desert, you know. They called it a desert. And they probably called it Mordor before Adar called it Mordor, you know. But, alright, I'm going off on another ramble. This is the Rambling Files, you know. But that's why I made notes to try to keep myself on track, but I can't. But I have to. I can't. I'm trying to figure out where this village is. It would have to be in this circle. It would have to be in this circle for the pyroclastic flow of the Mountain Doom to hit them. If they were on the other side of these mountains, they would not be hit by the flow. These mountains here would provide a protective barrier, keeping the pyroclastic explosions within Gurgras. You know, it would keep it with the Mount Doom's explosions within Gurgras, keeping the south of Mordor roughly safe from Mount Doom. But the river from the bay from Numenor to get here is right here. The river. The Numenor could have taken the river into Mordor from here to go in here. If Adar's crap and everything was in here, that would make sense. Numenor would sail their ships in here and make a little camp, like right here near the mountains, and then ride their little horsies and then stop them. And then the little extremely long trench from maybe the dammed river here, the water source, going all the way up into Mount Doom. Mount Doom blows up. The pyroclastic flow incredibly goes over the mountains and blows them up too. But it wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense. You know, within this sphere here, within the plains of Gurgras, that would be roughly at most 100 kilometers. That would make sense in this radius for the massive pyroclastic flows of this fantasy mountain to hit everything. But I just don't buy it hitting Nernin. I just don't buy it. I don't buy it. I do not buy it. But whatever. That's what happens. So that's the location of the whatever. Whatever. I got to get back on track. I cannot allow myself to. But now we know it's called Terraverse. So where did I last leave off with these damn Numenorians? I talked about the Pyroclast. Okay, yeah, alright. Galadriel finally mentions Celeborn's name. Finally, Celeborn has been mentioned. Tell me, where is Celeborn? For I much desire to speak with him. You know, he's gone. He apparently went off to war, and he never returned. And he's presumed dead. Because Galadriel is talking about him in the past tense, he's probably dead to her now. Now, do I think Celeborn is dead? Knowing this show, probably. But he might just be missing. He might be in a prison somewhere. And Galadriel's gotta go save him when she finds out that he's still alive. So Galadriel will go save Celeborn, and they'll be reunited, and then they'll have their child and all that stuff, and things start to get back on track for the Third Age, and that's how they're probably going to tell that tale. You know, they're going to make Celeborn not as good of a warrior as Galadriel. Celeborn is going to be the one that went off all half-cocked, and he got in trouble, and she's got to bail him out, and that's probably what happened to Celeborn. Which I believe is I honestly believe is a grievous insult to the character, just to build somebody else up that didn't even need to be built up for the warrior stance. You know, you didn't need to build Galadriel up to be a fighter. You didn't need to build Celeborn up to be the fighter and build Galadriel up to be the politician. And that would have worked! It would have worked! Whatever. You did what you did. You did what you did, and I'm not going to spend 50 minutes ranting about it. The next thing on the list here that I've got is Elendil leaves his son. His son is presumed dead in Mordor. So after the big pyroclastic flow, the fantasy of not knowing where this damn village is it in Nernin or is it somewhere in Gurgras? Yeah, who knows. So Isildur gets caught in the blast and nobody knows where he is. Nobody knows where he is. His father doesn't know where he is, and he's probably presumed dead, and Elendil's all sad about this, and he blames Galadriel about this, and he goes like, I should have left you in the sea where I found her. And it's like, okay, there you are, Elendil, and he's not like the Elendil we know in the lore, clearly, you know. But he's now angry with Galadriel. He's now angry with the elves. He's starting to fall in line with the Kingsmen for that. And he's like, goes to the queen and tells the queen, hey, we should go back to Numenor. We don't care about this place anymore. Let's just go back. We never should have come here. And the queen is like, okay, we'll go back. We can leave our wounded here. We'll leave a small garrison to go find them and pick them up, and then they could go to our little camp outside of the pyroclastic zone, which makes no frickin' sense. But now my theory is probably stronger that the village is probably in Gurgras. The village is probably in Gurgras. So if it's in the pyroclastic zone, it could be somewhere around here, right? It could be right there. The village could be right there, kind of all Pompeii-ish. And if you follow the mountainside through this opening onto the other side, it would be clear. It would be clear. It would be. So you wouldn't have any of the pyroclastic crap on the other side of these mountains, which is probably where the Numenor camp is. The Numenor camp is probably right there, and they go further south to the river to sail back out. That's probably the path that they took. It took hundreds of miles of riding with the horses to reach Gurgras, and that's how I'm trying to make sense. I'm trying to make sense of this. Alright, next. So the Queen of Numenor is blinded by the whateverness, and now she can't see, and she's hiding it by wearing a blindfold. So she's blinded by the blindfold instead of being blinded by her eyes not being able to see. I don't know how that changes anything, but she's blinded now, and she doesn't want anybody to know, so she's wearing a blindfold to show everybody that she can't see. Okay. Bronwyn is still in political charge because Halbrand got injured in the pyroclastic flow, or whatever it's called, the eruption of Mount Doom. So Halbrand is out of commission, and Bronwyn is still in charge of the people, for reasons unknown. Halbrand is going to be announced to continue to travel with Galadriel, because the two are dynamic. And Galadriel's going to go to Gil-galad, and the elves there are going to be like, going to heal Halbrand. And this is where everybody's theories about Halbrand being Sauron is almost cemented. It's almost cemented. It would be everybody's been wondering, is Halbrand Sauron? Is he Sauron? If so, how does he get to Eregion? How does he get there with this? There you go. Here we go. Alright, here we go. Okay? So, let's just do another Mordor here. Mordor, Ravania, Misty Mountains, Eriador, Khazad-dûm. So we're gonna go out. Mountain Doom, Gurgras. So they're gonna leave. Galadriel and Halbrand are gonna leave. They go up, and they're gonna Lindon. They're gonna say the mountains here. Here's Lindon right there. So they're gonna go into Lindon here, and they're going to talk with Gil-galad, and Halbrand's going to be healed. And probably their next path is going to take them directly back to Eregion. And that's where Halbrand's going to talk to Celebrimbor. And that's where he's going to whisper into Celebrimbor's ears to make those rings of power, because he's like, look at all this crap on here. It's all chaos and disorder. This entire plotline, this entire story, this entire show is a mess. I have to become Sauron again and fix everything. So he's going to tell Celebrimbor to make those rings of power so that he can fix this story. Oh, gosh. So that's what is probably going to happen. So Halbrand is almost entirely Sauron. And the show wants you to sympathize with him. In the previous episodes, Halbrand's on Numenor and he says, don't bring me back out there. I want to stay out here in peace. don't dig into my past for both of our sakes. He says these very cryptic and ominous lines, like, for both of our sakes. Why would he say that, for both of our sakes? Why would he... ominous. So maybe he wants to not go out into warlike stuff, because the War of Wrath was pretty crazy and chaotic, and Balerion was all destroyed and all that stuff, and chaos is like the opposite of order, and Sauron realizes war is chaos, and he can't create order when everybody's fighting all the time, so he wants to stay in a place that seems to be pretty ordersome and pretty in control, kind of like Numenor, and he wants to stay in Numenor and just be a blacksmith and just live his life out in peace and calm and tranquility. And then here comes this elf who drags him back into the lands of battle, and he's like, oh, I kind of like this, and then he gets all damaged at the pyroclastic explosion and whatever, and so now he's going to go to the elves, and this is where that's going to happen. That's my theory of what's going to happen in the next season, is that Halbrand's going to meet Celebrimbor, and they're going to start with the Rings of Power finally. Now, Bronwyn says, after Galadriel says that she's going to go there, to wherever she's going to go, and the Númenóreans begin to fuck off, going back to Númenor, leaving their wounded behind, but Miriel does say that she's going to return with a larger army, and it's like, a larger army, Queen Miriel, a larger army. Why didn't you bring that in the first place? Okay, so they're going back to Númenor to get a larger army to come back. Okay. Bronwyn says, let's go to an abandoned Númenorian colony. They're calling it Pelargir. So Pelargir is probably somewhere around here near South Gondor. It's a very important port city, the Bay of Belfast. It's on here. There's Pelargir. It's an abandoned Númenorian colony, apparently, even though it was a Gondorian port city. Okay. Well, there's Pelargir here, and further down south, Umbar would be down there, but there's Pelargir, and they're going to go there. To Pelargir. Okay. Sorry, I had a phone call, so we got... Alright, we're back. So the Bay Belfast is Pelargir. So they're going to go out of the Horadrim, are going, the Tir Harad people, the people of the Satherlands, are going to leave Mordor. They're going to leave, probably via this path. And they're going to go here, and they're going to stop in this Pelargir, which is apparently now an abandoned Númenorian colony. Who knows why it's abandoned? Why did they abandon it? This time period should be the time period of Númenorian expansionism. All of these port cities should be populated vastly by Númenorians and all that stuff, but apparently it's abandoned now. Who knows why? I guess we'll find out the next season. So they're going to go there. In the next season 2, they're going to be there. Arondir is probably going to go with Bronwyn to this Númenorian place. Who knows why, but they're probably because Bronwyn's son may be a half-elf. It may be Arondir's son because of their half-elf, and yes, why not? Make another half-elf union, because, why not? Okay. I talked about the location of Tir Harad. I talked about where's Mount Doom in relation. Alright, we're gonna go to my favorite part of the show. My favorite part of this episode. The Harfoots finally finished their migration. They're like somewhere around here, who knows where. There's like, they find their grove or something, and in their grove they find that because of Mount Doom, a rock flew out of Mount Doom hundreds of miles across Mount Doom. It landed in their grove and blew it up! And their mage friend, the big mage friend, Meteor Man, touches all of the broken down trees, and he uses his spells to heal the trees, and it scares the Harfoots, and the Harfoots tell the Meteor Man to go away. And so Meteor Man goes away, and he says, across the mountains are tall people. So our Meteor Man is probably finally going to go across the mountains to meet the elves and all that stuff. He's probably going to meet the elves. He's probably going to go to Region first, since it's closest. Or he might just go somewhere meet the Northmen. Who knows? Who knows where he's going? Who knows? But he might just go and meet the elves because that's the logical choice. You know, it's the logical choice. He's going to end up with Celebrimbor's place, and he might even end up in Lindon. Who knows? But he's going west. Alright, where's the Harfoot home? Rock Smash blew this place up. Mount Doom? How could Rock Smash from Mount Doom hit the Harfoot home? How far was this pyroclastic flow? How far do rocks fly? That was the note that I left on this little WordPad here. And I can't answer this question. I have no idea how a rock flew hundreds of miles to hit. Who knows where the Harfoot home is? Who knows where this Harfoot Grove is? But I can't answer that because I don't know if the show can either, you know. But the best part, my favorite part of this episode, probably of the entire show, the entire 7 episodes so far, the cult ladies from the previous episodes, the cult ladies, the 3 ladies in the white cloaks, they chant something and they set the Harfoot home on fire. They set their home on fire. All the carts, they set everything on fire. Why? I don't know. Maybe because of the Meteor Man being there. Maybe because they think he's still there. Who knows? But they blow the Harfoot home up. They blow him up. Oh, if only they could have blown the Harfoots up with the home. Ooh. But no, they didn't blow the Harfoots up. They're alive. They're fine. They're fine. So the Harfoots are like, let's go find Meteor Man. We shouldn't leave him behind now. They're going to go back on their word, and they're going to go find Meteor Man and tell him that the cult ladies are after him. Who are the cult ladies? Are they Maiar? Are they humans? Are they elves? But why, though? That's the note that I left in this, that's my last note. The last note is, who are the cult ladies? Are they Maiar? Are they humans? Are they elves? And finally, the last sentence, but why, though? I can't answer. These are questions. Almost all of these notes are questions on why it's happening. I can't tell you why it's happening. I don't even... All I can tell you is that it's happening. I can't tell you why it's happening, but it's happening. The cult ladies are mean, and they're mad at Mage Man. They're probably enemy Maiar, because of course Sauron has Maiar on his side now. Melkor would have, but, you know, the cult of Melkor, maybe they're remnants of the cult of Melkor, but maybe this is something that Meteor Man takes them out. He takes them out before the War of the Last Alliance, so that the things fall back on track, and that's how that happens. Alright, we're done with talking about our reactions to this episode and all of the questions that we have on where things are located. Should I talk about why diversity matters in a show that's as big as Europe and should be as diverse as Europe in regards to the location of lands? Things in the Far East should look like Eastern European. Things in the Far Southeast should probably look like Southeastern European. And things around here, you know, maybe these guys could look like Romanians. Maybe they could look like Middle Eastern people. Who knows what kind of people they would look like, but they wouldn't look like normal British folk mixed with other people folk from it wouldn't be cosmopolitan, you know. I don't think it would be. I just don't think it would. I think it would be a very vastly different culture than what you'd find of humans over here, you know. It's a pretty big gap, you know. It's a pretty big gap. They call it Tir Harad. Tir Harad. You know, you could have made them Haradrim, and aren't the Haradrim supposed to be based off Middle East? Yeah, wasn't that supposed to be? Okay, I guess they're not. Speaking of the, I can't. I've lost the ability to speak. I'm so flabbergasted on the choices made here, and it's not that I want to get mad at the companies and making the show. It's not that I want to get mad at the people playing the characters. They're just people playing characters. Don't get mad at them. Don't get mad at the actors and the actresses. Don't get mad at them. I want to tell everybody that. Anybody who's watching that, don't get mad at them. If you want to get disappointed or questioning anybody, question the writing process. Question the script. Question why. rather than get mad. But you can get mad all you like, I guess, because, you know, I'm getting mad. Even though I'm only hyperbolizing my madness. I just... After the notes and all that stuff, I can't continue talking about this. I guess I will continue my Let's Be Nice challenge next week. But I'll have to continue my Let's Be Nice challenge before Friday, because that's when the final episode of the season comes out. We're probably going to get another angry reaction. So before I get angry again, we're going to try to be nice and talk about the Harfoots and the Southland storyline and the characters, and see how we can explain how everything is and where Tir Harad should have been, and the pyroclastic flow and all that stuff, and try to keep everything intact, and try to explain a little bit more on what's going on. So we're going to be calm and nice in the next episode. But today was the Rantisode. Whatever. I don't know how to end these things. Be imaginative, everybody.